Good afternoon and welcome to the panel on strategic insights on consumer behavior, customer behavior. We have a very interesting panel. I couldn't have imagined a more diverse panel here. And you would know why I'm saying that because we have pretty much a wide range of experiences being represented with the distinguished panel here. So I'll start with Girish, a brief introduction of Girish. Girish Rangareddy is the Managing Director at ATR India. So he represents the manufacturer side. And it's interesting that he would be, we had a short discussion just before we came over here. He is going to talk about his experiences in getting insights from his customers, which is the B2B customers. Girish, a very brief introduction. Has been in the airlines industry or the aviation industry for the last almost 20 years after graduation from Vishwesvaraya Technology University. Worked with ATR for a long time, and now he's heading ATR's India business as managing director. He's also seen the airlines side, having worked with Air Deccan as well as Kingfisher Airlines. So he brings a rich experience of airlines as well as a manufacturer's perspective. Then we have Belson Coutinho from Jet Airways, Senior Vice President Marketing, E-commerce and Innovations. Again, a veteran of the industry, almost 2 decades of experience. Some of the interesting things that he is working on, and I'm going to prompt him to talk about some of these experiences, especially in terms of identifying new segments, engaging with them, and looking at new ways of creating customer experience which goes beyond a typical airline kind of a service. And finally, we have Christopher Imbert, brings a rich experience of operations and working with several airlines, and now currently President and CEO of Milan Nemos, which looks at analytics, and as you can see from the slide here, focuses on customer experience, and he will share his experience of working with world's leading airlines and some of his own personal experiences. So I'm sure we'll have some time for Q&A, which is somewhere towards the end. What I'm going to do is very quickly structure it around 5 minutes of sort of introductory remarks based on how their respective organizations are actually sort of leveraging customer insights, and then also focus on how does it translate into business performance. And then I'll open it up for sort of Q&A, and we'll have a rich discussion. Yeah. So may I request first Girish to sort of set the ball rolling by sharing his experiences.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Shanish. I'll thank you, TBS and IIMB Bangalore, for giving me this opportunity to present customer insights, strategic insights on the customer behaviors. First, I would like to get a brief introduction about ATR. ATR, as you all know, is a turboprop aircraft being manufactured since 1981. And we have around 1,700 aircrafts that are being in service with 200 set of customers with 100 countries, So that's the quantum of operations that we are involved in. As you can see, we've got 200 customers in 100 countries. That means each country and each demographic will throw us a lot of insights for us in terms of developments or technological innovations based on the customer feedback. Of course, when I say customer insights, we usually take the qualitative or the quantitative techniques or whatever, the graphs or the surveys and everything. But at the end of the day, what it will translate is the customer satisfaction, that what we innovate with. So basically what I would rather emphasize is, of course, already the speakers have spoken about the markets, they've spoken about the Indian scenarios, the developments, or the kind of data that are involved in the current market scenario. What I would do is I'll quickly share the kind of insights that allows us to design our product, then subsequently how it has impacted the customers. Then, of course, I'll just briefly talk about the customer insights and support services that is involved in terms of airlines. And basically, since for us, the customers are the airlines who operate our aircrafts. Of course, Mr. Belton and Christoph will talk about the guests, their customers, and other aspects. Just to start with, when we, as a aircraft manufacturer, what we see is the insights from the customer insights. Of course, we get the insights from the customers, how the product needs to be as well as. And with the given current technology and innovations, and there is some insights that also translates from the customers, that's the passengers, as well as. So as a quick insights, we had a kind of redevelopment or kind of cabin development, which we call it as Harmonia cabin, based on the insights from the customers and the airlines, where you have the cabin space, the feel that once you enter into the cabin, and as well as what we have done is we are given the kind of redesign of the overhead compartments, where you can have 30% excess baggage that can go into. I mean, this is what the customers, the airline customers do get this information, and you can imagine when they translate that back to their customers, who are usually the guests or the passengers of an airline, it makes a lot of impact. That means whatever is the customer, end of the day is we as manufacturers, we need to listen to them. The active listening, or that is more important. That means we always need to listen to the customers. That's a very key thing for any manufacturer. And if you don't listen to them, that means you are like lost in the whole translation. So the idea is for any manufacturer, that's what we believe in. We need to actively listen. So what we have done in order to get the customer insights is we have put in several of the things. What we do is kind of surveys, the customer surveys, that we pick up what the customer concerns are. Then from the technical front, what we do is operators conferences. And we also do kind of tech connections. Then we do regional conferences. In terms of safety, we also do regional safety conferences. And from these, we also get kind of a lot of insights as well as. And based on the regional safety conferences, what we have picked it as like some of the operators in the South Asia Pacific, they are doing a lot of visual flight rules. They fly VFR. There is no IFR, instrument flight rules. And when you do IVFR, you can imagine the lot of things that can set in motion. And what we do is, based on the insights, what we have done, there is existing technologies already, what we call as PBN, performance-based navigation. That means you have VNAVs, LNAV, lateral navigation, vertical navigation, then you have APVs or LPV approaches. India, Gagan, India has implemented the Gagan system, which effectively enables this. As a manufacturer, what we have done is we have got this technology into our aircrafts, and now the new customers, as you know, I don't have to name who the customer is, who is taking a lot of aircrafts from us. Eventually, they got these systems. That means when they want to do kind of regional connectivity, that means you are operating to unserved or underserved airports, where basically there is no instrument landing systems. Now, Gagan, the system which the government has put in motion and which is already put in place, now we have to utilize it for the betterment. So there is a technology on the aircraft available. Now there is a technology which has already been set in motion by the government. So that means we understand the customer needs. So that means if any airline would like to operate our product at a different segments or any regional unserved or underserved airports, that means the technology is on board of the aircraft already. If we don't get into these insights, especially these, rather than say consumer insights, say customer insights, we need to understand these ones. Of course, there are a lot of data around and we pick up a lot of data. But again, as I say, unless you need to decipher what the specific insight is, that's very important. And what we see is like we also have a lot of, technically I'll come about other aspects on the customer front end as well as. So the idea what I would rather emphasize here is on the customer front is you need to listen to your customers, anticipate things, and also you need to be reactive. I'll come back to the reactivity part later as to why and how it is. So, basically what we have done, and another classic example I would like to say about our product is about the introduction of the high density cabin. Usually there are two product variants. One is the 42-600 and the 70-600, which the 42-600 is in the range of 48 to 50 seats, and the 72 is from 68 to 78 seats. Of course, this 78 seats is a high density pack, which we call high density with 78 seats, maximum capacity. And this was anticipated because the South Asian Pacific, depending on the demographics, there are a lot of people who travel. And given the bio or the physical dimensions of the human being, they would rather prefer to have high density because they're flexible. I mean, of course, I don't know if we can implement a high-density cabin in our regions for given our physical conditions. But it's something which we need to adapt as well as when you see the other aspects. So with the high-density cabin, we have got an operator using 78 seats. That makes most viable for them to do such kind of an operations. And for example, we are looking at one of those, some operators who are looking at some kind of where they operate into terrains where there is a severe fog or there is a visibility restrictions. What we have got in a new technology is called the clear lens. Of course, there's a technology which was existing with the fighter aircrafts a long time with the kind of aural alerts which you can see display on the head-up display units and everything. But now the same technology is now getting into the civilian variants as well as, so that we have implemented the clear lens technology where you have got the synthetic vision systems and also the enhanced vision systems. So this will help the operators who are operating into different terrain conditions, whether the weather conditions are really pretty bad. So this helps the way they intend to operate, and also with these technologies, what even the PBN, which is going to get a lot of fuel, that adds up value to the airlines, when they think that they can save fuel. I mean, that's the more important thing. If the fuel cost is going to go up, now my next question is, how do I save fuel? So is there a technology, or is that I need to change the engines? No, maybe sometimes we just think, okay, you don't have to change engines. Maybe you just need to change the way you fly the aircraft, or maybe you don't have to fly from points or use the ground-based systems. Okay, I got PBN, so I fly with now-based system or the satellite-based system. So that makes more sense. So this is what we actually get the insights from the customers, the airlines. And when we translate that to the customers, when they take our product and when they operate those products and when they see a good cabin, nice cabin, and the feel, and the customers are happy with those things, and the comfortable seats, which we also now, earlier the seats were quite heavy and big. You might have seen some of the old aircrafts where when you just get in and you see the seats are okay now, and you see some of the aircrafts were slimline seats with lightweight, and of course there is some feedback as well as, oh, it's too thin and I don't feel much comfortable, and my shoulder, my shoulders are extending beyond the reach, and you don't want to prefer an aisle seat, you don't want to be in the middle seat. I know being in the middle seat, how tough it is for me. So usually, and now what we have designed is a kind of new seats where you have a kind of broader width and also you have more comfort. So these are the kind of insights that you take from the human behaviors as well as, this is what we do. So these are the kind of customer insights where we are driving the, what you call the product development. Now, when we do on the customer front side, especially from ATR, we have got several customer support centers across the globe, one such being Bangalore, where I'm responsible for. On the technical front, we have a lot of things which we get from the customers. So you're operating a product, you have a lot of queries. So now, what the insights, what we used to have was, we never used to, say a couple of years down before, what we used to have was a system where you get an email by outbox and there is no response, and the customer is to chase you, okay, there is something, and you are transferred to another department, there is no reaction from that. As I said, reactivity. Customer satisfaction is based on your reactivity, as how quickly you can respond and how quickly you can address their issues. So what we have done over the period of time is, we have introduced what we call CRM tools, where the customer can send us a request, and customer can in real time see where the request is. So this gives the customer a kind of opportunity to know where this request is it being addressed, where it is, at whom it is being addressed from. So this gives a clear picture for them sitting at the desk. So that means there is transparency for the customer whenever there is a request. It's a customer request for us, for the technical team. The technical team makes a response, they record it, they acknowledge it, and the customer is having a visibility of it, what is happening, and who is responsible, who's in charge of it, and they still have the numbers, they can still reach us to discuss or something. So, this is kind of drives the customer satisfaction. The earlier days, you are doing an Outlook email, group ID, okay, send it across, and after 2 or 3 days, the response is, they're not getting the response, the customer is not feeling happy, they are waiting for a response, they need to make calls. We don't have to do that anymore. We put in the CRM tools, and the customers see that one in real time, and they're happy with what the solutions they get. So this is kind of customer satisfaction, and this is what customers expect in terms of support. When I say support, this is from the airlines. In terms of when they operate an aircraft, of course, the machines have inherent set of kind of issues and things like that because it's a mission. So it does have to replace certain components and they have got something to troubleshoot. This is where the technical support comes in. So with all these data, I mean, this plays very important. And when I come back to the next point, what we see is there's a lot of data for us from any support point. When as a customer support center, we're looking at more of the data. From airline perspective, we get to see a lot of their maintenance data on the aircrafts, which is our product, what kind of maintenance, how many components are being replaced, and how do you take this data and get to know what sort of a product development that we need to make. I'll just give an insight about it. How do we go about doing it? So we got a data that the customers, sometimes some customers do send, some customers definitively send because they are obligated by the local regulations that they need to send this data to us. So what we do is we take this data and we interpret. Now what we got is we are putting in business intelligence tools. That means, as I said, we are talking about artificial intelligence or the big data. I mean, this is coming in. I think big data and artificial intelligence is going to play a big role. But again, as I said, if you have all the things and all the data and tools available, algorithms doing the job and everything, now again, when you ask a question to a system, maybe IBM Watson, I shouldn't be saying Watson, and if you ask a certain question, it gives you results. But again, you are the ones who are supposed to interpret the data, what it means, and what do I do with that? You know, how do I take that data to meet the customer satisfaction? I mean, where do I go with that? So that again, you need a human interface. That means logical reasoning and everything will be at the human interface. So from the airline perspective, what we do, as I said, when in a product redesign or anything, this is the first part which I spoke about was more of the insights driven from the airlines. There are other things from the day-to-day operations of the airlines which affects their on-time performance or reliability in terms, when they operate the aircraft. So what they do is they have the data sent to us and we are monitoring the data quite often to see what are the kind of reliabilities the components are experiencing, how much they are removing those components. Then what we do is we take up actions to improvise. And what we translate is we improvise the products, eventually it reduces the direct maintenance costs. I mean, this is now, as I was explaining, I was just sharing a brief discussion. What we were seeing was, earlier the fuel prices were high, so whenever the airline looks at their direct operating costs, they usually see a big chunk of number on the fuel. Now the fuel prices are come down, so they don't see the fuel price. Now they're seeing the numbers on the other side slightly higher. That's the tendency that we tend to see. Now the question is, okay, now if the fuel prices are less, I don't want to look. Now I'm looking at the other numbers. I got a flight crew cost. Of course, flight crew costs I cannot reduce because it's a standard one. Nobody's going to come down below those prices. I'm stuck. So now what else can I drive down? So now I come back to maintenance costs. Now I need to drive down the maintenance costs. How do you go over it? That means we need to improvise the product or improve the reliability of the component. So that means we have to get into innovative technologies, or maybe there is technology in place already, so we need to adapt those technologies so that we deliver some improvements to the customer and we try to improvise or reduce the DMCs. I mean, these are the kind of customer insights that we get. I mean, these are the insights that we drive from the airlines to us and where we end up kind of doing the design innovations or bringing in the improvements to the product lines. I mean, you can see the product as a whole, or you can see as a kind of a component on board of an aircraft as well as that. I mean, they're quite the same approach. So this is what we see usually. This is the kind of insights that we see in among the customers. I mean, there are a lot of data as well as I said in the previous panel, somebody was talking about IOM data where the aircraft generates a lot of data from the DFDR, and the same thing which we are using is the same kind of new technologies that we are implementing in ATI is to get these data, and we are kind of offering the flight data monitoring services where an airlines with 2 or 3 aircrafts, they don't want to set up their own facilities, but they would rather take on a third-party service where they can utilize these things. So this is the kind of ideas that come, the customer's insights, and this is what we are looking at. I think my time is up. So, all right, I could go on furthermore, but anyways, I think I pretty much give a few insights. What I would rather say is, But the customer satisfaction drives down from few things. One is the anticipation, and you need to be flexible with your customers, and also you need to be reactive to the customers. So that's what all I could say from customer satisfaction point of view to have a better customer insights. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Remind you for the alumni that there will be a quiz tonight, 50 questions, 50% of the final grade. So I hope you will remember this great customer experience. So let's talk about customer. What is a customer for an airline? It's someone who is flying or getting on a flight. What is a CRM? It's going beyond loyalty normally. It sits on a loyalty system because airlines are built on legacy systems. And we'll try to find out how we could offer passengers or customers or guests a unique end-to-end experience. And I think it's a challenge for the airline business now that needs to be solved and fixed very quickly. So airline CRM, it means, what does CRM means? Can't remember me. On an airline standpoint, you know, you're flying an airline, and pilots here would call them PAX, or passengers. You know, it's a weight and balance, which is on the back of the aircraft. Revenue management is talking about money. And we mostly in the airline business talk about passengers. It's people who are seated on an aircraft, and we pay taxes for that, airport charges, and so on. But a customer is something slightly different. I was wondering what is inspiring a customer? When you fly, what is inspiring you? Some do fly for food. I've been flying with a guy from Germany. He was amazed by Armagnac. So he was pretty drunk during the full flight. I think he's been handcuffed at the arrival. And you also have passengers who just like one thing, which is to be transported from point A to B and arriving on time, roughly, with no delay, or no luggage lost, or anything like that. So we log all that into incidents. We got CRMs, but again, it's legacy systems. So I was thinking, what is inspiring people, while Facebook knows nearly everything that inspires you, with who and where? Who did post anything on Facebook here? Raise the hand. Yes. So you said, Cecilia, you were with someone else, so everybody knows on Facebook that you got friends here, and you are here today. So, but the airline doesn't know. You fly with KLM. Your airline, Jet Airways, sorry, but you booked your ticket on a KLM flight because it was a code share, and you could not select your seat. But the airline didn't know why Cecilia was coming here because no information. You're taking a round-day trip for coming today to Bangalore. Are you following an MBA course? If you would buy a book on Amazon that is recommended by one of your professors, immediately Amazon knows exactly which books you will order at which frequencies. Again, the airline doesn't know why you're traveling. It was a question from Michael O'Leary. He said, one day, the best business for airlines are funerals, because we know our people will go quick, and they pay the high fare, and they are very happy to fly, and they cannot even plan the trip. And the final thing, it was is your final destination. When you go somewhere, the airline's taking you at the airport and delivering you at the airport, normally with your luggage. You know Waze? Waze is a great thing because every 2 minutes, Waze is locating you wherever you are in the world. And Siri, you know Siri. When you're talking to Siri, you're talking to a server, which is analyzing your voice. So Siri even knows about your mood. I was flying with Air France on Thursday. I had a great experience because they were on strike. And I received a notification which was telling me, your flight is cancelled. And the second notification said, your flight is ready for boarding. And then I got an email, which I found a bit annoying, which was all about renewing urgently my subscriber card, which was nearly due. And I said, why do they send that today? Who pressed the button? Because I'm a bit annoyed with the brand today. But anyway, I did manage to fly because the flight was empty. and to get an upgrade as well. So Siri knows about your mood, knows about everything, and the airline knows about roughly your final destination if you lose your luggage, because it's all about that. So I think in this digital world, we collect a lot of information that airlines could take benefits of, but it's a challenging thing. The future is now. We said it all day long that we need to hurry for digitalization and everything. And I believe it's really a mandate that airlines need to drive more data. We talked about big data, we talked about a lot of things. So if we use location-based data, because I think the continuity of our brain is our mobile phone now, which knows a lot of things about us. So we could discuss longly for the night about ethical issues, legal issues on using personal data. But in some cases, you know, I'm pretty sure that the one of you who are pilots experience that, and the passengers as well. We're just missing one passenger. We will take off a bit later because we will need to get his luggage off the aircraft. And that happens, and then the aircraft is slightly delayed, and after there is a curfew at the end of the day, or the crew is not able to fly anymore. And this is a cost of 4 billion euros per year for the airline in terms of delay impact and everything. So if we could locate people in a terminal with their mobile, we could find them quicker and imagine what it could offer in case of disruption. So I'm just thinking maybe we could implement little services through APIs, which will connect to legacy systems. I'm just a startupper, you know, I've just got silly ideas. It's just ideas. And then when we talked about legacy system with a lot of data everywhere, it's a world of silos. When I started in the airline business, I had an argue with a colleague about how to managing demand. So in network planning, they use certain models for demand, QSI or Logit. In revenue management, we use different models because we need to have 2 VPs and 2 silos. I would tell you the first person I did have this discussion with was Vinay Dubey. I'm an old guy from the Sabre gang as well. And so if we would aggregate all this data using artificial intelligence, machine learning, because we start from our experience with correlation we know, and the benefits of data science is to identify correlations we don't know. Imagine just 1 second, and I'm a doctor, you know, pneumologist. I'm making research on lung cancer. It's not a good topic. But. And I would like to, as I want to do this research, I will take data from smokers because they have cancers. And maybe I would find that if you have an iPhone, plus you're eating that kind of sweet, you may have a higher proportion of getting cancer than anything else, because we did not think about it, because we base our life on correlation we think about. And in this airline business also we have to add one thing, and I think it will be my conclusion. We all are different, because what obvious to you is not obvious to me, and vice versa. Because what I realize is that there are a lot of people here who do not speak French. I was amazed. Been told you will speak French, so I got to speak English. So it's a question of a cultural environment. The issue is mainly with airlines, where airlines, people who are traveling all over the world, so it should be standard, it should be heavily standardized, but sometimes we need to think differently. So we talked a lot about processes, but this morning I think when we talk about talents, we talked a lot about human. So we are dealing customer centricity, maybe a kind of a customer value score, which will be given to you, that if you reach that grade, you will have, I don't know, an extra baggage, but you don't need one because you do a round-day trip. Air France is proposing me an extra baggage every day. I did not check in anything last time, even if I came here. And we have to shift to maybe more a better human centricity. Because I think sometimes in this world of processes, we do things to passengers that we would even do to our children. Like when there is a lot of delay, I saw a company say, we should give passengers water 3 hours after the start of the delay. I was flying an airline lately, and I told the lady, if you have more than 90 minutes delay, I'm diabetic, I took my medication, And I got a response, if you're diabetic, you should not travel. Which I used social media data, engaged a conversation with a chatbot from KLM, and I said, I will talk to Peter Elbiers, and I got a response, is Peter Elbiers, well, could you give me the seat number of your friend Peter Elbiers? I said, he's the CEO of the airline. So I think let's put a bit of a human thinking about it. We got big challenges, because you know there is a company called Airbnb. They said they are likely to offer a unique end-to-end customer experience to their travelers or guests or passengers. And I'm nearly sure the other thing which may come one day is that Amazon, who knows better than we when we will order something, if they would enter into the airline space, would it be the end of distribution as it's done today? Will we get out of all this legacy system? Professor Raghuram told this morning about multimodal framework. We need to offer door-to-door experience. So we got to unsilo data to understand where people come from, where they go to. And I'd like to pass the microphone to Balsan, who will not talk about passengers or customers, but about guests, which is more important. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. I think CRM meaning can't remember me. I must say Christoph is a very smart traveler, because his next trip that is booked is on Jet Airways, and he knows that we never forget customers. So you can be assured that you'll be remembered. Coming to the point on customer insights and how it impacts and what's our view in managing that. I think we like to keep it very simple. In an industry, especially in the Indian context, where travel is a commodity, consumers are shifting brands for 100 rupees difference or $2 difference. Our view is while your loyalty programs, while the CRM systems that have been built over a period of time will drive a lot of targeting and segmentation. For us, it's about using customer insights to create differentiation. Differentiate beyond what companies or airlines can not easily replicate or follow easily. And that's where we try to use the insights that we get across the business. I think Christoph talked about airlines, airline systems being in silos. I think that's pretty much true for airlines which have been there for a long period of time, because they've evolved with systems that came with legacy technology. You started with your reservation systems, then you realized you had to put in a call center, then you realized you wanted post-servicing setups, your guest relations team, and then came the command centers for social media. You never had the opportunity to put all of that, from grounds up. But airlines like us have started or realized that unless and until you create a single view or an integrated platform, even though at the back end the systems are not really talking to each other, you cannot win the game of using insights to deliver a differentiated experience or creating the value adds that we want to create to be relevant in this business. So what we have done or what we have embarked on doing is put this different consumer touch points under one platform called the Voice of Guest. Whether you talk about the contact center, whether you talk about the guest relations team that responds to your feedback post your travel, or the command center that looks, the social media command center that looks at real time, listens and responds real time. Because it's the same consumer. He's got different attributes across different touch points, but how can you get that under one roof and have a single view, whether you're responding to him for a query that happens before his travel, or a query that comes in post his travel. And I think we're trying to put that as an opportunity to generate insights and deliver differentiated experience and value add to the consumer, which I believe is, or we believe, is a key factor that can drive value to the consumer. We use a lot of insights, not just coming from traditional channels, a lot of insights where we do short-term research activities. We've embarked on Net Promoter Score as a part of our key strategy to track consumer satisfaction. That gives us a lot of insights, and that will give us a lot of insight, not just from a brand point of view, but from various touch points across our service delivery. And we are quite excited about that, helping us to learn and understand and start fine-tuning a lot of processes. A lot of these initiatives have already given us insights to even make changes in the policy decisions that we've embarked on. And social media is driving a lot of that change for us. And it's no secret that, you know, the consumer, when he's on social media, really behaves in a much different manner than the way he would interact with you one-on-one or even through a call center. You get more sharper and more candid conversation or feedback through the social comments that they make. And as a part of our strategy, that's something that we listen and observe almost real time. There have been instances where we took a lot of decisions to enhance our processes, to make changes in the way we manage consumers. And there were instances where social media told us that the consumer is expecting something different. And we recalibrated, or at times we went back and changed those policies just because the consumer was telling us something different. 10 years ago, this would have probably not been the case, where you would not be able to listen and get those insights as instant as real time. So that's an important piece where we're trying to look at all touch points to get insights to make very key decisions in not just designing a product, but also in fine-tuning even a policy change that we would like to. I think it's an evolving process. There is no silver bullet or definition on how you can manage or deliver customer insights to drive business. It's a learning process as much as we try to implement or talk about machine learning and artificial intelligence. There's never an end to that. And it's all about what is the problem that you're trying to solve and which insight is going to solve that problem for you. A very simple example, we have a 24/7 contact center, consumer scholars, travel agent scholars, and we realize a lot of those queries are very standard. They get repeated day in and day out. How can machine learning, artificial intelligence-led chatbot solve that problem? It's also about offloading those calls coming in and let the consumer do self-service and get those answers. We would rather use the resources at the back end to do more value-added services than respond to the same typical questions that will be about fare rules and connections and baggage queries. These are the thoughts that is driving us to build value and bring in efficiency in whatever we're trying to do. Of course, there are challenges, and I think one of the things that we're consciously trying to put together is really define the objective of what we want to achieve out of this whole program, driving analytics and customer insights. It's very easy to bring in a Watson or a Adobe platform and start putting that together without knowing what's your end goal. We run a very complex business, multiple touch points, multiple units having multiple needs, and you probably can't solve and address everything in one go using the whole customer insight as a platform. So it's important to define what is it that we want to solve and what do you want to enhance as a part of this whole strategy. The loyalty program is obviously the backbone of our customer insights and data. And as Christoph talked about, it started off more as a CRM but we have intelligently extended that to integrate even the customer feedback that we get post-travel. So that will always be the core of what the consumer data will be residing in. And with social feed and the contact center and the email content coming into that, it becomes much richer, and then the technology will help you to take decisions and bring an insight. Yeah, there are challenges where right from, do you get easy access to the best of talent to manage this space? It's a challenge. But as I said, it's evolving. You will get resources as they get an opportunity to work in this environment. Defining your objective, making sure there's a cross-functional buy-in across the organization is another key. Otherwise, you cannot run a program of really leveraging data, getting insights and making use of that to make a difference. It cannot work unless you have buy-in across the platform or across the chain in our business, especially in the service industries, all the more in a travel business like aviation. There's a lot to talk about, but I think that's a flavor for me in terms of customer insight, how we're trying to use that. And as I said, it's an evolving process, and happy to take calls or have an engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. So I can see that we have 5 minutes for questions. I'll request you to address the questions to a specific panelist if that's required, or if it's open-ended, I'll just request one of them to address it. Thank you.
I think you talked about the identity, basically to remember the customer. In airline industry, there is also privacy and protection of identity. So how are you going to manage that? Because it's a conflicting topic, like.
Especially from Europe.
In Europe, we got a new regulation which will be in place from June, which is harmonization across countries. It's called GDPR. And there are 2 ways of analyzing data. Airlines could have data which are totally anonymous to manage flow, traffic, and so on. But when it comes to personal data, let's take an example. You have the app of an airline, you download it, and you will have to accept that your location data or anything could be used for the purpose of delivering you services for the airline. But the airline will not be entitled to sell this data to someone else. Because today, there are a lot of weather apps you can download, and these data are just selling your location, selling information about you to advertising companies who are just offering kind of retargeting. Mobile phone operators are selling data as well, and Google and Apple, they are storing location-based data. For example, when you talk about location, Google is trying to lock access to the SDK to be one of the only providers to sell data. So might be urgencies as well to have a India-based or European-based solution, or rely on Google or move to China. Maybe you want to add anything?
I think it's a very good point and a very good question. Data privacy will always be something that you cannot compromise. In fact, it's getting tougher. And Christoph talked about the GDPR law that's coming by the European Union. It's just not tough, it's complex. And it just doesn't touch one area of the business that you do, it touches almost every business. Do we have a choice? We don't have a choice but to follow that. So it makes the whole experiment even more difficult to run your insights and reach out to the consumer. I think all of us as responsible citizens have to follow the privacy rules and laws. And as much as at times in India, many brands and companies try to just go around those systems, especially the mobile stuff that you talk about. You download an app and you don't know what you're opting in for. But one thing for sure, especially in the travel industry, especially back where we manage that, consumer insights and his authorization to do anything as far as his data is concerned is sacrosanct.
Hello, I'm Shashi here. My specific question to Girish here. Uh, uh, Earlier in your talk, you specifically mentioned about customer touch points. Basically, you're talking about the end customer. My specific question is, from the manufacturer perspective, what are the things that you, in relationship with the airlines, are doing to improve the productivity or reducing the turnaround time between flights so that the productivity of the airlines is as high as possible?
Quite interesting question, Shashi. In fact, when we talk about improving the turnaround times, as a matter of fact, what we do is when there's a product that has already been designed, what we define is kind of turnaround times, so specific turnaround times. Say, for example, on our aircraft, the minimum turnaround time should be around like 24 minutes or 20, it depends on how we want. But again, it is left to the discretion of the operator if they want to do it 30 minutes turnaround time or 40 minutes turnaround time. But with the least turnaround time, depending on the kind of the facilities and the setup what you have, you already have defined a set minimum. That's the kind of achievable turnaround time. Say it's 20 minutes, it's 20 minutes. That's I mean, the passenger disembarking, loading in other stuff and everything. So there is a set time that we are calculated, and what we do is we provide this to the customer initially. This is what the turnaround times that you can look into. Of course, the customer can increase their turnaround times. I mean, if you can improvise on the set turnaround times, like 15 minutes, that means that may not be that really feasible, depending on the environment where you're operating and the kind of these, the airports and everything. So it's a matter of fact, based on the general thumb rule, we have a set defined for timelines for the turnaround time. And if anything beyond that, it's again, the operator can suit according to his requirements.
My question was also like, yes, it is whatever you say is absolutely right, but taking the customer information here again and then trying to analyze it and then come out with more proactive things which you offer as a solution to your customers. Is there something like that that's happening?
Definitely. I mean, as I said in the initial point, like, we always listen to the customers. Say, for example, now our product was designed in 81, of course, the new technologies with the new avionics suite that we implemented in 2014 and certain things. I mean, the aircraft was designed and the air conditioning system, but which we quite often hear from the customers, as well as, if I say the guests, as well as which complain to the airlines, and airlines being our customers, they come back to us with the feedback. My guests are not happy with the kind of the ECS system, environmental control system on board. We'd like to have something more important. I mean, this is the kind of input that we get from the countries which are operating more in tropical and humid environment. And of course, we don't get to hear from the Western environment, the hemisphere, maybe they are the cold climate. So based on that, what we're trying to do is introduce a new kind of a system. That means we are trying to improve the existing legacy system on the air conditioning system, and we are also planning for the future new air management system as well. That means we are trying to work on the new technologies so that the next kind of evolution on the aircraft will be incorporating this new air management system so the customers get the benefit out of it. But of course, we can try to replace it with a bigger engine, but again, the economics don't work, because end of the day, our product is meant for the low fuel efficiency, low fuel burn, and we don't want to increase the fuel burn. So we need to look into different technologies. That's what we are doing. That means we always try to understand the customer needs. That's usually the airlines, and sometimes some of the airline needs is also translated from their guests, their feedback, and from the feedback from the airlines to us as a manufacturer. This is how, in principle, we get the insights from.
That's a clear signal for us to stop. I just want to leave a thought behind from the in services marketing. We use a very interesting phrase called as moments of truth, and this originated in the airlines industry. So I think that's a great contribution, and several ways of approaching customers, developing customer insights have been completely based on this concept of moments of truth, cycle of service, and also I think from a purely from an academic perspective, I look at this airlines and the aviation industry is something which has contributed for research purposes. So with that, I would like to thank Girish, Belson and Chris for a very interesting and insightful talk. Thank you.